in order to be successful, in the next 415 days, in order to be personally or corporately successful in the next 415 days, a remnant of men and women must rise out of the cultural crisis in which we are in and function as fighters led by the holy God of history. "415 days from today is November 8, 2016. In order to have success in the next 415 chaotic days, they're going to be immensely chaotic. A remnant, a very small group of men and women must rise up out of the mess we are in order to fight. But the fight has to be led by the holy God of history. And the context for the battle over the next 415 days simply is the rebirth of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Heretofore a third world, theocratic supremacist dictatorship. But in a blink, Iran becomes a first world atomic superpower that is still a theocratic supremacist dictatorship. In light of these very significant and serious themes I'll be addressing today, some folks, Jews, Christians, Muslims, are asking, are we in the end days? And the answer is very simple, yes. Yeah. We're in the end days of thousands, tens of thousands of people that will die between today and November 8th, 2016, that would not have died but for the decision in the U.S. Congress on September 11th, 2015. September 11th, 2015. History can be a bitch, let me tell you. Hi, my name is Tom Trento. I'm here to tell you that the issues facing every one of you in this room today, the issues facing the United States of America, the issues facing, in fact, all 7 billion people on this planet, the issues from global warming to economic instability to the Islamic invasion of Europe to the hangnails on your toenails to the humidity in South Florida, all of these problems are as a result of the Jews in Israel building falafel stands in East Jerusalem. That's the whole problem. If it wasn't for the damn Jews building in East Jerusalem, the world would experience rainbow-colored peace throughout the world. Now, if you were a Muslim audience, I'd be getting a standing ovation right now. Or if you were a hard leftist audience, I'd be getting a standing ovation right now. Because for those folks, and they comprise a significant portion of the individuals with whom we do battle in the days ahead, for those folks, the facts do not matter. They simply do not matter. How long, don't answer this, how long does it take before you want to smack in the face the leftist cousin or niece or friend that you're speaking to when you start a logical, coherent conversation? How long, you can answer it, how long before you want to hit them and go, open up your...
Instantaneously.
Instantaneously.
Ready to kill someone.
That's because of the postmodern culture that we have, where we happen to be in right now. I'll explain that as we go through a lot of material. I got a lot of stuff for you. I don't expect you to take notes and comprehend all of what I'm going to lay out today. That's why we're videotaping it. We'll make it available. Then you can kind of study this stuff. But it's fascinatingly interesting. Hi, everybody. How you doing? Good to be here. Thank you, Danita, for your Danita 352 weeks in a row. Is that the number right now?
Something like that.
Something like that. 352 weeks in a row of meeting as an organized Tea Party effort to bring back the principles of the Judeo-Christian worldview to the United States of America. Give her a hand, ladies and gentlemen.
What's the bad news?
The bad news. Yeah, I got a lot of bad news. Mostly this is a very depressing presentation today, very depressing. Only because I don't present myself as a prophet of doom by any means. I'm a proclaimer of that which is true, proclaimer of reality. And if reality happens to be not too great right now, that's the situation. That's what we have to deal with. And it's better to have a dispassionate, objective, logical analysis of the situation in front of you than to make believe, as so many people do, the facts before us. It's better to know what's going on so you can prepare for the eventualities and the realities that happen. I'm going to weave together 5 very interesting themes today to create a context to answer the question, Atomic Iran, will there be a war in the Middle East before November 8, 2016? The answer is yes. As we were sitting here about 20 minutes ago, another rocket left Gaza and went into Ashdod, Ron? Ashdod. Ron Wexler's up here. He's going to take a few minutes at the end, and Michael will also. Ron is the owner of Heritage Study Program, the tours that we go on, the United West, to lead folks to Israel. And it's not your typical tour looking at all the archaeological stuff, though we do that. It's not your typical tour for Christian elements, though we do that. It's a national security briefing to equip Jews and Christians to come back to America and intelligently lead others to be ready to stand for the eventuality of what could occur in the future when this country is divided and turns against Israel, as the world will. We know that on many, many levels. So the 5 different themes I'm going to weave together include initially the postmodern treason of President Obama and his administration. Postmodern is a fancy philosophical term for a switch in the way we determine truth. I dare say that if President Obama was elected in 1960 instead of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and he tried to do as a Democrat exactly what he's doing today, the Democrats would pull him out of the White House, tar and feather him on Pennsylvania Avenue. Well, what's happened? That's only, 50 years or so? What's changed so dramatically that not once, but twice, a majority of the people in the United States of America voted for President Obama? There's been a philosophical, cultural shift in the way Americans think. It's gone away from truth being external to us, immovable, and we as human beings identify truth and then align our lives accordingly. Conversely, truth now is a repository internally. I, as an individual, determine my own truth. Once you have a philosophical shift in an individual like that, that individual becomes dangerous to the area in which he operates. When you have 51% of the country that has shifted to that belief system, that I determine my own truth. What's true for you, Danita, may not be true for you, Doug. And what's true for you, Michael, may not be true for me, Tom. Once you adopt that postmodern view, you have the key now to unlock the insane, anti-logical stuff that's going on in the American culture. That's the cultural crisis this remnant must rise above. The second theme I'm going to weave together is the willful. Willful. We were there. Myself, Mark, Damon. Where's Damon? Right there. And Barry Fernandez, who's a devotee of your group here, our group here. I'm part of your group here. He was with us in Washington on 9/9/2015 at the rally where you saw Ted Cruz and Trump and everybody else. Sarah Palin saved their life. Did you see me save Sarah Palin's life? Did you see me save Sarah Palin's life?
No, they don't know what you're talking
They don't know what I'm
about.
at.
Tell them. Tell them.
Oh, wow. It
No,
was,
tell them. We weren't here.
I'll tell them. There's Sarah Palin speaking on the stage. A crazy person comes out and rushes the stage towards Sarah Palin. Throws his body selflessly in front of this guy, knocks him down to the ground. Security comes and takes him.
it wasn't that dramatic.
Show her appreciation.
I'm going bear hunting in Alaska with her in a couple of weeks. So we're going to shoot some bear, you know. No, she didn't know what's going on. It happened very quickly. The willful, we were there, the willful capitulation of the Republican Party on the Iran deal. It is, we're furious. We're furious, folks. It is incomprehensible that intelligent elected officials sworn to uphold the Constitution could indeed vote the way they did on this deal. And willfully, why? Because Boeing is selling 100 planes to Iran right now. And the lobby in Washington is, so many congressmen are on the payroll of Boeing, it isn't funny. Behind the scenes stuff. The second theme, besides the postmodern treason of President Obama, in a sane society he would be held accountable and go before a court of law. Right. But we're postmodern, so it's okay. Weaving together the willful capitulation of the Republican Party on this deal. Third point is the global belligerence of Iran. When the weak get weaker, the bully gets stronger. Yeah. This is frightening, what's going to happen. The fourth point is the Islamic invasion of Europe. We've got to weave that dynamic in as we figure out what we're going to do over the next 415 days. And the fifth theme I'll weave together today to lay a proposition for why I believe there's going to be war in the Middle East is best illustrated by this long, what's the name of this thing? It's a stick, and you put your iPhone on the end of it, and you selfie stick. The self-absorbed perception and desire of Americans as opposed to the selfless concern that Americans used to have. Once a society, and this goes back to the postmodern view, once individuals become selfish, let me take my selfie, and selfies are okay, but they're symbolic of a larger evil that lurks in the heart of human beings. Me first, as opposed to others first. Once you accept that as a culture, and your enemy accepts death in the development and continuation of their particular worldview, Islam, you must lose. You can't beat them. How do you beat somebody who's willing to die for their beliefs and you want to take pictures of yourself while they're chopping your head off? How do you win that fight? Those five themes will lay out the very chaotic culture that's critical in which we live and how we have to rise above that. The only way I know, I'm a very serious Christian, the only way I know is by aligning ourselves minimally with those 10 suggestions that, what's the guy's name that went up on a mountain and got, Moses, okay, he went up to some mountain somewhere. Oh, they're commandments or suggestions?
Commandments.
10 commandments, those 10 commandments. Minimally, and this goes for Jews, Christians, and I even think agnostics and others can kind of align yourself with these principles and, do 6 of them. 6 out of 10 ain't too bad. But if we want to be successful in the fight before us, and if this fight has a theological plus a geopolitical component to it, there's going to have to be alignment to something that comes from the mind and heart of God. And if I'm not mistaken, the 10 Commandments are minimally rules that can allow a person to live a vital, a successful, a productive life. And ironically, Ron Wexler, our friend up here, started a campaign years ago called the 10 Commandment Day. And we don't have time to get into that. You should have him back at some point to explain what that's all about. But he's the leader internationally, trying to get people to recognize the value of the 10 Commandments. This would be the remnant being led by the holy God of history. Now, clearly, how many Jewish people in here? And we got a bunch of Jewish people.
Yeah, 8 of them are missing.
8 are missing because we're between the high holy days here. And everybody's cooking, everybody's getting ready for family and everyone else coming. As I've mentioned this many, many times, my dear friends over at Asia Torah that I work with, Orthodox rabbis, we disagree over whether or not the Messiah has come yet, Jesus Christ, and whether or not he's coming in the future. And that's a legitimate and very serious disagreement. But we agree on virtually everything else, and we stand together as brothers and sisters fighting this battle in agreement on the unity of Judaism and Christianity. Conversely, Islam is not part of that mix. The God of Islam is not the God of the Jews or Christians. And I happen to be a theologian, so it's pretty easy to understand. All right, a lot of stuff going on. Let me stop there for a minute. I'll stop here, take 1 or 2 questions. Then I'm going to lay out the war scenario, how the war is going to start in the Middle East.
Are there any questions at this point? One behind. Oh, Norm, I'll be right back. See if you get it on.
Tom.
It's not.
It's on. Hello? No, it's not. Tom, you see it.
Let me see that.
My question is just in concern for Israel and the situation, because the United States, under Barack Hussein Obama, has turned his back on Israel and has shifted 180 degrees to supporting Israel's enemies and our enemies, and is financing and funding. And it's Barack Obama who created ISIS. It's Barack Obama who has created this mess. What can Benjamin Netanyahu do? What is he doing? And what is the chances that Israel survives what's coming?
Isn't it? Yeah. What's your question? Maybe I can wrap up together.
My question is, the war that is inevitable be coming, would it be
You gotta hold it a little closer.
Would it be possible that this war could keep this asshole in office?
Okay. A little bit of mic etiquette. Whenever you're speaking, as nasty as it sounds, you gotta put your lips on the mic, okay? If you put your lips real close to the mic, people can hear you, then you can adjust your voice to go up or down or whatever. But if you hold the mic like this, it really doesn't work, particularly these kind of mics. The President Obama, could this war cause him to declare martial law and then say he's running for a third? That's not going to happen. Absolutely not going to happen. There are too many people that would storm the White House on that one. Whether or not Israel's going to survive, I think a simple reading of the Bible says Israel does survive. Will Israel go through hell? Very possible. Very, very possible. And the scenario I'm going to lay out is sort of not a worst case, but a bad case that will cause a lot of destruction in Israel. Now we are going, Ronnie and I are leading the tour on March 12th of this year. You got to come. Israel, as much as there's all kinds of problems there, when we go on this tour, it's very, very safe. Ronnie is an Israeli. He lives here and there. He's taken 100,000 people You haven't lost anybody, have you? Not even a splinter, you know? He knows he works with the security forces, but we go behind the scenes on everything. We're leaving March 12th. We're going to study Iran's influence on the proxy armies that it has surrounding Israel right now. Sunni and Shia, which is very, very bizarre. So we're going to look into that. Israel will prevail. It doesn't mean Israel's not going to need the help of the United States of America. She will. She will to do this right. And it may not be forthcoming. Thus, a remnant of people following a living God of the Bible to put pressure on Congress and the White House when it's time for resupplying, when it's time for telling the UN to go to hell, when it's time for whatever. I'll lay that out now. All right, here's what is a possible theory of what could happen in Israel. I didn't make this up. This comes from the Israeli war planners. They just released a 4-year plan called the Gideon Plan that explains what has to happen in Israel to prepare itself as a lighter, more efficient fighting force. And in that, they lay out what the threats are for Israel today. And we're doing it in the context of the Iran deal. Now, what is the GDP of the United States of America? The gross domestic product. What number? What is that for the United States of America? Anybody know?
13 trillion. 13.5 trillion.
17 trillion. $17 trillion. We produce.
That's the gross.
That's the gross domestic product, not national.
The public debt, the real debt, is 13.
No, not debt. This isn't debt.
GDP.
This is GDP. This is what we produce.
I'm sorry, it's the same as the debt.
It's very close, yeah. When you go to work and you produce something, all those numbers, crazy people add all these numbers up. Our gross domestic product is $16.7 trillion dollars. What is the GDP of Iran?
Half a trillion.
1/10 of that, isn't it?
The GDP, gross domestic product, of Iran is $415 billion. Apple Computer's worth $700 billion. The gross domestic product, the capability of 80 million Iranians producing on a regular basis in 1 year is $415 billion. We now are giving them 1/3, $150 billion. We're infusing into their economy 1/3 of their GDP. Conversely, that would be like the United States of America getting a check from
6 trillion.
Donald Trump for $6 trillion. $6 trillion. That equates to about $15,000, $20,000 for every single American in the United States. You'd all get a 20 grand tomorrow if somebody wrote us a check for $6 trillion. Do you know what $150 billion is going to do for Iran's capability to project their global belligerence worldwide? And guess who's at the center of all of that? Two Satans, a little one and a big one. All right, here's what happens. The most amazing charm offensive you could imagine will begin in the very near future. On the 17th, 2 days ago, what's today, the 18th? 19th, 2 days ago. On the 17th, the Coker bill was ended. It ended, and it actually ended a couple of days earlier. But Iran now has, as a fact of law, and this is which is the capitulation of the Republicans. It's a fact of law. Iran now will have, as a fact of law, the sanctions from the United States, which were 80% of the worldwide sanctions, lifted from Iran. So now they'll have the capability to produce and get their money from the various banks. And the Iranians now will have an infusion of 1/3 of their GDP Tell me they aren't popping champagne corks in Tehran right now. By the way, Ayatollah Khomeini is worth A, $10 million, B, $10 billion, C, $90 billion. Which number?
C.
C. Khomeini's worth $90 billion. Factual information, open source information.
More than Donald.
These guys are, yeah, more than Donald. These guys are amazing. You will see a huge portion of the 150 billion, not a huge portion, a small portion, it's a lot of money, going toward an international charm offensive. What do I mean by that? A charm offensive is to lobby the world to tell everybody in a significant position, whether a corporate leader or a political leader or a cultural leader, that Iran is the nicest nation in the world, the best people in the world, and really everybody before Obama got it wrong, and these are wonderful, wonderful people. You will see all kinds of front groups pop up in Washington, D.C., doing lobbying to every single elected official there, inviting them to Iran's celebration of Christmas, celebration of Rosh Hashanah, celebration of everything. They are in a phenomenal position to win the hearts and minds of the dopey Americans, 50% plus one. Why? Because when they do their dastardly deed, they're winning their army right now, against which this remnant that I'm arguing for is going to have to counter this. Without $150 billion, the charm offensive is going to take place internationally. It's going to go through the P5 plus one, Britain, France, Germany, China, Russia, and the UK. The one is Germany. 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, P5 plus one, Germany. They're gonna spend money there, win the hearts and minds of the leaders and the people and the media. They're going to win the leftist media who are for them anyway. All of this is designed to provide insulation for when they test their bomb before November 8th, 2016. That's critical. They have to test their bomb before November 8th, 2016. They don't have to blow anybody up. They just have to test. And I'll explain why. So the charm offensive will start. That literally has already started. Javad Zarif is the chief negotiator for Iran. You see him with Kerry all the time. They're hugging each other. And in 2009, Javad Zarif, 2009, today's 15. 6 years ago, Javad Zarif, his son, was the best man at John Kerry's daughter's wedding when John Kerry's daughter married an Iranian physician from a Boston hospital. And Zarif was the best man at that. John Kerry and Javad Zarif have been friends for a long time. John Kerry has been a target of an influence operation for 10 years, and the Iranians got him. And you'll see as I go through some of the data how badly they got him. Badly, to the point of treason. I mean, simple. Charm offensive starts simultaneously with an increase in initially for the first few months they're going to follow to the letter the JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. If you have not read that, you really need to read it. 159 pages, but it reads in about 3 or 4 hours. It's the deal. You look at it and you go, and in it, the Iranians also get restrictions removed from exporting caviar. They can export their caviar now, which is interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so you're going to see compliance over the first few months combined with a charm offensive. This is to woo the world over to their side. Simultaneously, they have facilities that we don't know about, and we can't know about them, because there was an original red line that the United States had, PMDs, potential military dimension, to their nuclear plan. And we said in a red line when all of this started in 2002. All of the negotiations started in 2002. We said, part of a deal with you is you have to allow a complete inspection so that we can determine the potential and possible military dimension to your program, so we can have a baseline to know where you are. How far have you enriched? Where are you on missile technology? Where are you on assembling a warhead? There's three parts to making a bomb: enriching uranium, putting it into a warhead, and then a delivery system, which could be a jihadi on his back. It could be a small suitcase nuke, which we have. The U.S. has small nukes that people carry with them if need be.
It could be a kid in a high school in Texas.
Yeah, it could be a kid in a high school in Texas, sure. So, the what? Oh, that was the clock, yeah. The Iranians said, no PMDs. You're not going to look at our military possibilities. It's not happening. Therefore, we have no idea whether or not they have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other facilities. But take a wild guess. Do they have any secret facilities going on? Take a wild guess. 6 resolutions since 2006. 6 UN resolutions, all violated by Iran. And this is how the frustration occurred with the P5+1, when Iran just said, screw you. Every time there was a resolution saying you can't do this, they just kept doing it. And that's 2006. Once President Obama came in, they had their guy, and then they started to put the pressure on there, and he wanted a legacy, as we know. And simultaneous with the Charm Offensive and the obliging to the deal will be a development in the enrichment side, in the assembly side, and many people who we work with regularly, who are folks in and out of the service and the CIA, said they have the weapon already. They don't have the delivery system, the long-range delivery system, sophisticated yet, but they have the warhead put together, and they know how to enrich. Pretty simple. So they'll be doing that, and then their thinking, the Iranians, their thinking follows one of 2 tracks. You got to follow this carefully. We're now trying to red team to think as the other side does. We're trying to red team the Ayatollahs and the mullahs and the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, which in the preamble, let me read you the preamble of the Constitution. This is the preamble of the Constitution of Iran. I'm reading the essential beliefs of Iran. In the formation, and I'm quoting, and equipping of the country's defense forces, due attention must be paid to the faith and ideology as the basic criteria. Accordingly, the Army of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps are to be organized in conformity with this goal, accordance with the basic faith and ideology. And they will be responsible not only for guarding and preserving the frontiers of the country, the outer edges of the country, but also for fulfilling the ideological mission of jihad in God's way. What does that say? The IRGC is also responsible for fulfilling the ideological mission of jihad in God's way. What does that mean? Anybody want to take a shot on that?
This is the Constitution, you said?
Yeah.
This is the U.S. This is the Iranian Constitution.
Right.
This is the preamble, the context to explaining the principles of the Constitution.
Based on their parameters.
Fulfilling the ideological mission of jihad in God's way. Anybody know what that means?
Follow Quran, beheading, and all the rest of it.
In case you don't get it, they go on to explain. They say, that is, we're going to explain, extending the sovereignty of God's law, where's that? Throughout the world. This is in accordance with the Quranic verse, prepare against them wherever force you're able to muster, strings of horses, striking fear into the enemy of God and your enemy, and others besides them. Quran 8:60. So, you have to ask yourself, does the Ayatollah really believe this crap? I mean,
Yes, he does.
does he believe it? Do the mullahs who serve under the Ayatollah really believe,
Does John Kerry believe it?
do these guys really believe this? If you say yes, then you go back to the postmodern treason of the Obama administration. Because there's a doctrine in U.S. law called misprision of treason, where you have an obligation to understand the enemy's threat doctrine. You can't be an elected official in the United States of America and be ignorant about what the enemy's belief system is. That's common sense, okay? And this isn't like 1700 when George Washington going to say, what does British believe? You know, what's going on? Who are we going to talk to? You take out your iPhone and go, what the hell do the Iranians believe about all this stuff? And you got the answer right in front of you in 10 seconds. Well, you're obligated in the United States of America to follow the truth of the enemy's threat doctrine where it leads. These guys say we have an ideological mission to extend the Quran beyond the frontiers. Then as you go through the Constitution of Iran, you read that they are not allowed to enter into any foreign agreement that in any way interferes with their internal politics or their internal culture. So what we have, folks, what we have, you talk about a cultural crisis, we have in the United States of America, by law, an obligation that this country has to follow regarding an enemy that says we need to extend our ideology to your country. We have by law a doctrine that says, well, we have to allow you to live the way you understand you need to live. And then when you go over to the Iranian side, they look at the JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, and they go, it's not a legal document in Iran. It's a press release. It's an international press release. By law, if you read the Constitution of Iran, in order for anything to be accepted legally, it first has to be translated into Farsi, which the JCPOA has not. That's in the Constitution. We can't have anything that isn't translated into Farsi. And then it has to go through the assembly, it has to go through a process of election, and then to the supreme leader before it becomes law in Iran. That ain't happening because the P5+1 know if this thing gets translated into Farsi, what the heck is that all about? That's going to change all kinds of meanings and we're back at square one. Don't translate that thing into Farsi. We don't care if most Americans don't realize it's not law in Iran. They're not obligated to follow this. Just as long as dopey Americans believe that, and Obama gets his next Nobel Prize with Kerry. Two of them. All right, so we got this charm offensive going on. We have this lobbying campaign going on. We have compliance initially. Then we have the building of the bomb continuing. If we've concluded that the Ayatollah and his henchmen truly believe what they believe, then they believe the doctrine of the Twelvers, that there have been 12 imams, basically, 12 imams, and the 12th imam is an Iranian, and he's invisible right now. He's in Qom, Iran, in a hole, in a big tunnel. They go there every single day and put prayers in, like Jews go to the wall, put prayers in. The Iranians go to Qom in the tunnel and send little pieces of paper, prayers down to the 12th imam. And guess who's running for office for president in 2017 in Iran? Who? Obama. If Obama runs, he's going to be running against Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Ahmadinejad is now seriously considering running in 2017, particularly in light of this deal, because he believes he's John the Baptist. He's the precursor to the Mahdi. Truly believes that. Remember the UN deal? He saw the halo and all of that. So if these guys really believe this, then the Ayatollah Khomeini, 76 years old, not great health, truly believes that he's there as the predecessor to the 12th Imam, to the Mahdi. If you read the Constitution, They have a section that says, we are here to prepare Iran for the return of the Mahdi. In their constitution. You cannot look past this stuff and make believe it doesn't exist. If they believe it, then the track I'm following is frightening. Then they need to create a situation worldwide that brings the Mahdi back. Their eschatology, their end times require a chaotic war occurring in which the Mahdi returns, the great soldier on the white horse returns, beats up the Jews, goes and gets Jesus, part of this, as his second in command, tells the Christians they're wrong, tells the Jews they're wrong, and everybody falls on the knee to bow to the Mahdi. This is their belief system. Okay, next piece, next part of this. In order to have world domination, they're so close. Iran is so close to world domination. How so? What moves could they make, geopolitical moves, could they make where they can control something necessary that the world uses every single day? Oil, obviously. Right now, Iran runs 4 countries. They run Iran, they run Iraq, they run Syria, and they're running Yemen. They're in a little battle in Yemen, but they'll have Yemen. They have 4 capital cities in the Middle East. And they're very, very close to a hegemon, very close to complete control of the Middle East through their geopolitical capabilities. If they were to go into the northeast section of Saudi Arabia, here's Saudi Arabia, Mecca, Medina, over here's the northeast section, and here's where all the oil fields are. Here's Iraq, right across the water. Iran, right across the water. All the oil fields are here. Happens to be populated in the northeast section by the Shia Muslims in Saudi Arabia. About 4 or 5 million out of 25, 30 million Sunnis. If Iran can get control of the Saudi northeastern oil fields, then they simply control, they're number 4 now in oil production. They'll be
58%.
they'll control 58% of the world's oil supply. They don't have to blow anybody up. They could just say, spick it off, spick it on, spick it off, spick it on, turn on, turn off, turn on, turn off. And that starts getting control of the areas in the Middle East, obviously. Now, how do they do that? Here's where the bomb comes into play. As you go through this document, the JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, everything comes down to enrichment. Enrichment, enrichment, enrichment. You're going to make a bomb. You want to blow things up. Well, I'm going to give you a lesson in physics, okay? I got, here's my props for a quick lesson in physics. 2 socks. See them?
Which one's 235?
Yeah, right. Here's the 2 socks. Now, if we go out to the beach in Fort Lauderdale and dig up uranium, and we bring it in here, we found out, history past, science past, that in uranium, there's stuff that'll blow up. There's like firecrackers in there that if you do a few things to them, they'll blow up real bad. You unleash the power of the atom, and you got a little explosion on your hands. But if you dig up uranium, and I'm simplifying this obviously, and you got 1,000, you just cut a cross section, you get 1,000 atoms or isotopes. Isotopes is a fancy name for atoms. It's just the differential in neutrons and protons in each atom makes it an isotope. And you got 1,000, we'll use atoms, 1,000 atoms. Well, the way the world works, the way elements work, 7 of those 1,000 are the things that blow up, the red ones. 993 are the white ones. The red ones are uranium-235, that's the only stuff that blows up, and the white ones are duds, it's a junk, uranium-238. So now you've got to somehow get this junk, these 1,000 atoms, in a position to blow up. Turns out that they're different sizes and different weights. So you put them in a washing machine. It goes on spin cycle. And what happens? It pushes it all to the side. And the spin cycle for making bombs are the centrifuges. They are washing machines that spin around very, very fast. very fast.
Separating.
The stuff goes in there and it separates the White Sox from the Red Sox. You want to take out 860 White Sox out of the 1,000, so you're left with how many? 860 from 1,000 is how much? 140. Of those 140, 7 are the ones that blow up. What percentage is 7 to 140? 5%. We have just enriched uranium to 5%. It's counterintuitive. You don't enrich uranium by adding to it. You enrich uranium by taking the bad stuff away from it. So the stuff that blows up has more capability to blow up. So we spin it, and to do 860 White Sox out of that takes time and a lot of spinning. We did it though. Woo! We got down to 140, 5%. You take that 5% and you can run medical equipment, research equipment. You put it in containers, dip it in the water, and what does it do? How does nuclear fuel work? It simply gets hot. It boils water. And the steam from the water, just like your teapot, all nuclear fuel does is boil water. Nothing else for fuel. It boils the steam. The steam goes into a generator. Generator turns and makes electricity. Now you've got nuclear fuel making electricity. Now we got 140 of these. But we go, you know what? I want to get to 20%. I want to take this up a notch, and I want to run a nuclear submarine. I want to really get the power out of this. So out of the 140, you take out, I think it's 135. Let me look at the exact number here. I'm pretty sure it's 135. Out of the 140, you remove 105 White Sox. So you spin it, you take 105 White Sox. How many total atoms left if you take 105 away from 140? 35. What percentage, 7, this remains constant at 7, what percentage is 7 to 35? 5%. So 20%. So now we've taken 140 atoms, spun them much quicker. This is critically important in terms of a breakout time for a bomb. Much quicker now to take 140, spin them out, and we get rid of 105 of the White Sox, and we have 35 left, 7 of which are red. We're at 20% enriched uranium. This is serious stuff now. Now we're getting real serious. And we only have 35 atoms. Now you go, I want to make a bomb, man. And you take the 35 and you spin them, you remove 27. What's 27 from 35? 8. 7 of which are these. What's your percentage of enriched uranium?
87.5.
90%. You're at 90% enriched. Do you see the stepped up process? How you can do it more quickly once you get to larger numbers? That's why all these deals and all this stuff is to keep Iran below 5%. The JCPOA, the deal says no more than 3.67%. But originally the red line in the United States was no centrifuges and no development on centrifuges. We'll supply, you got all the oil in the world. You don't need nuclear fuel because you want to kill people. We'll take apart the centrifuges. We'll take them out. You have to do that. You have to close up some of your plants. That was the original red line. The Iranians negotiated the fact that they can leave 5,000 spinning centrifuges, and they promised they won't go above 3.67%.
I believe them.
You believe them. Now, if you believe them, then you live in the land of Oz, which happens to be 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue right now.
Right.
And here's why it's essential for Iran to test before November 8, 2016. Then I'll open it up for a couple of questions.
What, Tom? So when Bibi Netanyahu drew his red line of 9, what did that mean?
When he said he had the little bomb, remember in the UN? Oh no, the United States Congress when he spoke. Was that that was the UN, yeah. UN in 2012. He drew the red line at 90%. He simply said, look, President Obama, you throw these red lines out all over the place. We are throwing a red line out. If these guys go to 90%, then that's a red line for us, and we'll do what we have to do. He said those words. We'll do what we have to do, which means it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical air attack. There's several ways that Israel can hit the Iranians. So you can't let them get to 90, because then they have a bomb. And here's, if you don't remember anything else today, remember this. This is why the date of November 8th is so important. You cannot. This past April, Mark, myself, Damon, a couple of others, we interviewed General David Ivry in Tel Aviv. He commanded Operation Opera, the attack against the reactor in Baghdad on June 7th, 1981. And one of the critical components of the timing of their attack was the firing up of the reactor. It was supposed to be fired up in October, November of that year. And all the planning with the IAF and the IDF and the intelligence services said, we got to hit it before they fire it up. We cannot hit a hot reactor. That will be a global catastrophe to hit a hot reactor. You will have nuclear radiation floating around worldwide. You will be blamed for every catastrophe in the world. You got to hit the reactor before it goes hot. The Iranians know if they can go hot with a reactor, they win this chess game, because they can't get hit after that. Right. The Israelis know they got to hit it before it goes hot. Now, go back to the geopolitical time frame of November 8, 2016. If these guys, the Ayatollahs, truly believe this stuff, and if they believe that they're precursors to the Mahdi, and if they believe that the Middle East, control for the Middle East, particularly on the Sunni side, control of the two holy cities, Mecca and Medina, they can taste it right now. The world is in a perfect position with the capitulation of America and the ascendancy now of the Russians assisting the Syrians, which are the Iranians, in Syria to prop up Bashar al-Assad. That's taking place as we speak. You can't have a better configuration of a geopolitical situation for Iran to test a bomb. They do not have to explode the bomb. We're the only ones that dropped it on anybody's head. All you have to do is test, and you're a member of the nuclear club. And it's it. Fait accompli, world changes overnight. So if they truly believe this, they're going to spool up and they're going to test the bomb before November 8, 2016. And then the world's different. Now, what is Obama going to say in the UN? Oh, my God, you're horrible, all of that. But they're going to say, don't attack, we can't attack them. It's containment now, which Obama really wanted from the beginning, containment. Right. So you can see the narrative there. It's easy. The wild card is Israel. Israel cannot allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. It can't happen. It's the end of Israel, 1-2 bomb country. Whether or not Israel has a nuclear bomb or whether they throw them back, and Iran's ready to lose half their country for two reasons. One, they've wiped out the Jews. They will be heroes to the world. And then the Muslims will rise up worldwide and go after who's ever next on their list. It's not the end, it's the beginning of the caliphate attack of Islam when the Jews are killed. It's not the end of anything, it's the beginning. And the other issue is, in this holy war, all the Muslims that die in a conflagration in Iran are immediately transcended to paradise because they died in a holy war. So you slobs on this table here, you may have tried to live your life as a Muslim and you just didn't make it and you don't go to paradise. But if Israel drops a bomb on your head and you all die, you all go to paradise. It's a no-lose situation. This is what 80 million people in Iran believe. Now, Israel has phenomenal intelligence, and if they believe that the breakout to developing the bomb is happening, they're going to interfere with that. If they interfere with that in any great way, then you will see Hezbollah, the proxy of Israel in the north, and when we take the tours, we bring you, you can look, oh, the fence is here, you're looking over there at Hezbollah houses, right where that table is down there. The Hezbollah now has, according to the best sources, between 50 and 100,000 rockets, more advanced. Iran now has the Fatah 313 rocket. It can go 500 kilometers, about 300 miles or so, and carries pretty heavy weaponry. So that may be stationed. Those may be stationed in southern Lebanon or can get there. But if Israel hits Iran in any way, Hezbollah, which is Iran, will unleash thousands of missiles per day from the north. We were in California the other day at a briefing, and Captain Dan Gordon, 40 years in the IDF, said that Israel's Iron Dome capability can knock down 90%. Now, each shot's about 50, 60 grand. So you got 1,000 missiles coming in, you hit 900 of them, do the math, do the resupply. He said 10%, we're going to get hit with 500 to 1,000 missiles in the north, maybe even to Tel Aviv, per day. Israel can't fight that kind of war. So recently, about 3 months ago, Israeli generals said basically that the next war in southern Lebanon, here's where you come into play, this remnant rising up to stand strong for America and Israel. They said we look at the situation and we can't fight a war of attrition, which was actually one of the names of their wars. We can't fight a war of attrition and absorb 1,000 missiles a day, 500, 200 missiles a day. We can't do that. So here's the new rules, and we don't care what the hell the United Nations believe. This is public information now through the Israeli Defense Forces. They said if Hezbollah starts to attack, missiles starts to come, we're going to do our little drop leaflets and do telephone calls and texting. We're going to be good social media partners for 2 days. And then there's a river there, the Litani River, that goes east-west along Lebanon, divides it, a third of it is the southern Lebanon. He then said, we're going to evaporate everything in southern Lebanon because we know all the bombs are in the houses. It doesn't even have to be nuclear. Israel has tremendous artillery, air capability, sea capability, cruise missiles, tremendous capabilities. So they're going to just slaughter southern Lebanon. Now, you saw what happened at Operation Protective Edge last year. Damon, right here, got attacked in Miami by Muslims on the corner in front of the Jewish, the Jewish, not embassy, the consulate. The Israeli consulate, yeah. You can imagine if now Israel is wiping out southern Lebanon. Obviously, Hamas is going to jump in, and the Islamic State from the eastern side is going to be lobbing stuff over on the eastern border of Syria. The Islamic State is in the Sinai. They're going to be fighting. Israel's got almost a four-border, 360-degree war. They're going to have to become violent and devastatingly brutal, and you're going to see little babies in pieces on the news every day. The whole world is going to turn against Israel to cause them to calibrate down. And who do you want in the White House if you're Iran during this conflagration?
Jeb Bush.
Jeb Bush. You want President Obama your friend.
Hell no!
You want a friendly administration. So here's the takeaway. If it looks like the Republicans are going to win in 2016, 415 days from today, most likely there will be a war in the Middle East because Iran is going to escalate its march toward testing a bomb. One test, boom, then they're in the club. If it looks like the Democrats will win, this probably will be postponed. There's no rush at that point because they have friends in the White House. That's the frightening situation. Look, we are in very difficult days, and this is a battle fought in the heavenlies and on earth. In order to prepare ourselves for it, we have to rise above just the earthly planning and logistics and thinking, and think as God would want us to think. Think as God sees the world. Think as, and these are not that difficult, these concerns. You align yourself personally in in a righteous manner. You never can be sinless by any means. It's not the issue. But each day you can sin less, sin a little less, moving in the right direction. Then you develop a supernatural capability to fight above and beyond what you think. Now you're in an army that is uniquely prepared for the very difficult days ahead. And mark my words, there's going to be some very, very difficult days. But if this Fort Lauderdale Tea Party can rise to the occasion, I'll put my money on winning that battle any day of the week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Here's good evening.